Hi. It's Monday, and it's about 11. As I had mentioned last week, we have kind of a construction project that's supposed to be going on anyway. It's not, but it's supposed to be. And so I needed to do things in the morning. I'm doing prep work on some of the woodwork. And I'll be doing that probably all week, definitely this week, Wednesday and Friday. I hope to finish that phase of things. I hope to finish what I'm doing by the weekend so that I can get back on the regular schedule on Monday next week. But Wednesday and Friday this week I will be still starting at 11. And I'm not sure if I'm going to go on until just 1 or maybe longer. It depends on how things are going. And so far, they're not going real well. I got the base here. This kind of came out okay, but it keeps breaking. I fixed one spot here on Friday, and then 2 others broke. So I'll be trying to repair those maybe today, maybe not, depending on how everything else goes. This didn't work out, so I'm going to try the same thing I tried before one more time, and if that doesn't work, then I'll try something else. This is primed gray, and the shortcut was to have the seat cushion stay the primer color by taping it. And I carefully taped it, and the tape didn't hold, which is the first time that's happened. So I'm going to retape it and then respray the back and arms, the pearlescent white. It takes like 3 coats over the gray. So what I've learned is that a lot of these paints are pretty translucent, except for the dark ones. Like this only took 2 coats, and the metallic really only took 1. But the lighter colors, you need to have a white primer. And I was just trying to be cheap. I've got white primer, but it's compared to this is really cheap primer. The white primer is more expensive, and I was just, trying to save some pennies, and it turned out to be a bad idea. So why did I do this gray again? Well, because the rest of it, these bits are pearlescent over gray, and I want it to look the same. So there. So I'll try this again. So I'll be taping the seat, covering up the seat cushion, and then today I'll probably put a first and second coat on, and tomorrow a third, and on Wednesday I'll untape it, and if it turns out okay, then I will paint the little buttons and dials and stuff on here, and then fully assemble the command station assembly, which is partially assembled. The other things I'm working on are these bits that go around all of the stations, the station consoles, and well, I'll just show you this. I tried a shortcut, so this is a learning by exception kind of stream. I think you've learned that by now. That don't do what I do what I do after I fix what I've done because it didn't go well. So in this case, I thought, well, I'm just painting it white, so why don't I just put the white paint right on the plastic, and I'll see what happened. It didn't adhere. It just sort of ran and globbed up. And that happened on all of the pieces. So what I did was I just said, okay, well, I'm going to just do what I should have done to begin with, which is put primer on it. So I put white primer on the tops and the consoles. So what I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to paint these panels gray, just hand brush it. I think, for what I'm doing with this model, I think that'll be okay. I put primer on here, and it did an adequate job of covering up the white. And if I'm not satisfied with it after I'd done painting the gray, then I might just hand brush it with something else. So you'll see those bits in a bit. The other thing is that I thought I had prepped these parts, but this, which is the main screen display, okay, so it's kind of like an important part. If you look at it, I didn't see this until I painted it. But several of the parts I've noticed, the flat parts, have these like little dimples all over them. It's like an acne outbreak. And like I said, I've noticed it, and I've sanded it down on some other parts, but I didn't notice these, and I didn't run my fingers over it like I sometimes do. And so I need to sand them off. And then I will, after this is, sanded down, they're just all over the place on this. This is really pretty poorly molded. So I'll sand these off, and then I'm going to prime it. And I'm going to use the white primer. I'm going to go ahead and prime these bits. I'm not sure. This is a main screen side panel. They're not going to be painted white. I'm going to be painting them different colors. I'm almost tempted to leave this the bare plastic, but yeah, I mean, this is the elevator door. I'm tempted to leave these parts as the bare plastic and just paint this door. But I'm not going to. So this is going to be primed. This is going to be primed. This is going to be primed. I'll buy another can of white primer sometime. This is the fail paint. It's way too glossy anyway. Yeah, do that. Start painting gray stuff. I don't know how things are going to go today. As has been the case recently, things have been going kind of poorly. So that might be how it goes. Repairing this I might not bother with this today. It depends on how everything else goes. This doesn't need to be done until like the very end almost. Well, until I start installing the display substation assemblies. Until I start installing those, this doesn't really have to be fixed. So not fixing this isn't going to delay things. Actually, not painting this isn't going to delay things either. So I should probably do the things that could delay things, right? Like these need to be primed, and this needs to be sanded before it can be primed. So let's get on with it. And then the painting of the panels, I'll do that after this. But this, I just want to get this done while I'm still thinking about it. They're just everywhere. They're even on the sides here. So I'm guessing what happened is that this came off of the mold, and it just I don't know. Maybe it was too cool. Maybe it's too warm. Who can tell why exactly? But the thing is just flawed everywhere. It's just, I mean, it's really pretty bad. Even along here, they're just everywhere. So it's probably just as well the paint didn't work on this. 'cause I don't feel badly about sanding it off. So the title for this is Star Trek Salvage, which is kind of what's happening here. Is I'm kind of just salvaging things that went poorly. And trying to get them to be okay. So the lessons to be learned here. One is shortcuts, at least the ones I took, just didn't work. And the shortcut ended up being the long cut because it ending up taking longer to repair the stuff and get it back on track than if I had just not tried to do a shortcut to begin with. The other is, part prep is really important, and sometimes you get flaws that you didn't even think were possible. Okay. Like the little dimples all over these I would have sanded these off last week before I started trying to paint anything if I'd noticed they were there. But this is the front panel. I would have expected the main screen front panel. I would have expected that this part, if any part, would have been done well, but I'm wrong. I'm going to use a finer grit sandpaper to polish these surfaces a little bit after I rough them up here. And then I'll put primer on it and try again. The decal goes on here. Hopefully it'll cover it well. Last week I started, doing I guess I'll call it a monologue because it's just me talking. That's mono, and I'm logging. One talker. That's what it was. So it is a monologue. About growing up with the original series, which was so original that it wasn't called the original series. It wasn't TOS, sorry, not even the original series. I have to use the acronym. Otherwise I sound, like I don't know what I'm talking about, which is the case anyway, but, why go out of one's way to try to sound even more than one is. So part of it is remembering some of the classic episodes. Now, I have to say that, remembering stuff that happened, almost 50 years ago, right? More than that? 1960s, almost 60 years ago, geez. Remembering those things is not the same as being, a real Star Trek aficionado or expert, like a lot of people are. It's just, how I remember it, which is not, so to speak, canon. It's just memories. So they might not be accurate, but at least I'll talk about it the way I remember it. Need some of that 1,000 grit stuff. There it is. So part of remembering things from TOS when it was TOS, when it was just Star Trek because there wasn't any other series. Okay. It was the only Star Trek, so it wasn't TOS, it was Star Trek. Is that there were, some things that were pretty memorable. One is the first Tranya episode. I don't remember too much about it other than the spaceship looked like kind of a molecule, if I'm remembering this correctly. And then there was this severe-looking apparition that showed up on the view screen, which moved suspiciously puppet-like, which turned out not to be a surprise because it was a puppet. And I have no recollection about, what kind of danger the Enterprise was in from this ship. It was threatening. Of course it was threatening. So, those of you out there who are, real Star Trek fans will go, how could you not know this? Well, because I'm trying to remember it, not having memorized it. But then they're invited onto the ship and they see the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, and it's really kind of what it was. And they were about to, share many stories, but first the Tranya. So that's become kind of a trope. So that is a thing that I definitely remember. Is portions of that episode, not all of it. And then, of course, the Tribble episode, who can... the trouble with Tribbles. Everybody loves the Tribbles. I actually got one as a gift. Not a real Tribble, but like a sort of a plushie. It's sort of like a plushie. But it has a battery and a little motor in it. And when it's disturbed, it makes this, it vibrates and makes the Tribble purring sound. which reminds me that the batteries in there I probably should do something about that, because it's been in there quite a while, and it very well may be leaking. I don't know if I'll remember that or not, but that's something I should remember, and I should check it so that I don't end up battery acid all over the inside of my Tribble. I think that was a famous Harvey Mudd episode, wasn't it? There weren't very many real recurring characters other than, the Star Trek cast themselves. And the characters that kept recurring, that became part of the show, kind of. I think it was Harry Mudd. Jeez. Remembering things, right? I remember things. Like I remembered that today was Monday and I needed to do the stream. I remembered that I told you that I'd be starting late. I think it's Harry Mudd. Pretty sure it's Harry Mudd, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. So that's another one I remember, is the Tribble one. Then there's always, there's the ones where they go back in time and get to wear gangster costumes. I don't remember too much about it other than that they did that. There were morality plays too. Like the ones that were, you're either half white or half black, depending on which side of your face was white or black. Star Trek did that kind of thing. Got to talk about social issues in the guise of science fiction, which made it safe to do it. So they hated each other because you're either half white or half black or half white, depending on, which direction you were looking in, I guess. It was very confusing to the Star Trek people who couldn't tell, what's the difference here. And I remember them getting very irate at the Star Trek crew for not seeing the obvious difference in the inferiority or superiority, depending on which direction you were going in. Oh. Okay. I have to use water. Usually I use isopropyl alcohol to wipe off the sanding dust. But that's not here because it's up in my construction zone. I'm using it as part of my I'm staining wood, and I had to clean the wood before I stained it. And I was using also isopropyl alcohol to clean the wood because it evaporates without raising the grain on the wood, which water does. Even though it's only 70%, it still evaporates really quickly. So it's much better, and it's also slightly a decent solvent, so if there's oils or something on the wood. Okay, I think I got rid of all the little dimples and stuff, and the surface is, smooth enough. So these pieces all need to be primed. And then I can decide what to do with them in terms of paint. I'm going to paint the elevator doors a really light blue. I have a nice light blue color. I'm going to paint those that. I haven't decided what to do with the sides. They're kind of a grayish off-white color. I think I'm going to use that. That's the color I'm going to use for the base underneath the view screens and stuff. I'm going to use that for the sides here instead of just the white. Well, there, that's done. Now I got wet trash and other trash. Now, if I'm going to do painting, I'm going to tape this now. Just see if I can get this to work. It was a failure the last time. It's the first time I've had that kind of thing happen with this tape. Usually this stuff works really well, and I thought I'd gotten it pushed down, into the corners and stuff, but it pulled up around in the corners back here and along the top. What the heck? Now there's... How did that get messed up? I don't know if you can see it. There's a spot here now on the seat. Now, I tried this and it didn't work. So I'm going to try it again, and if repeating things and expecting a different result is a sign of insanity or something. In this case, I know what went wrong, and I'm making an effort to fix it. So as not to, not repeat the mistake. I don't want to repeat the thing that failed. I want it to work the way it was supposed to have worked the first time. So that's what I'm doing here, is hoping to make it work this time, as opposed to the last time when it didn't work. And if it does, that's fine. And if it doesn't, then I'll try something else. So I think it's okay. I think it's an okay thing to try something twice, to try to get it to work the second time if it didn't work the first time. But not a third time. If it doesn't work the second time, I'm not going to try it the third time. I want it to go up slightly on the side. Yeah, kind of like that. So this failed. Okay, the tape let me down. The last time I did this, and so I'm trying it again. But what happened was that it was just a compounding of problems. It was, the tape let me down, and so I decided to paint it, hand paint it, and it was actually working pretty well. I got these lines really well done, and these lines really well done, and then right there, right in that spot, the brush just slipped a little bit, and I got a little bit of paint onto the arm of the chair where I didn't want it. And I tried to fix that, and then it just went from bad to worse to worse to worse until it became unrecoverable. And once it became unrecoverable, well, it was unrecoverable. That's the definition of the word. So I couldn't fix it, and so I just started over. He broke my little stick here. So the seat cushion I want to stay gray, but the rest of it, the edges, I want to be white. So I'm going to just put tape on it, like over the edge. This is where it failed last time. It actually separated from the seat along the top. And I think what happened was I was putting like 3 or 4 coats of this pearlescent white paint on it, because it just doesn't cover that well on the dark here. And so it got the tape. I think it saturated the tape, and it pulled it off. So I'm going to trim it closer to the edge, and then push it down really, really tight. This is the corner there that needs to be. I need a thing that's more pointed than the toothpick here. Yeah, this always happens. It sticks to either the tweezers or my finger. It sticks to the thing I don't want it to stick to, and doesn't stick to where I want it. That just keeps happening over and over. That should be just right to cover that bit. Okay, well, this is taped again. So I'm going to try it again. What I'll be doing is putting multiple coats of pearlescent white paint on the parts that are not taped. All right. And the hope then is that when I take the tape off, the parts that are taped will not have pearlescent white paint on them. That's the hope. And if it does, then I'll try to paint the seat again by hand without getting it onto the pearlescent white. And if that, I don't know, if that doesn't work, then there will have to be a different solution. I don't know what that solution will be, but it would have to be a different one. So these are the bits that will get painted with spray paint tomorrow and over the weekend. Not over the weekend. Why am I saying that? Tomorrow and Tuesday. Might as well put this back on here. This seems to be working. Holds it in place while it's being painted. All right. My overly cluttered work surface here. These are the parts that got badly painted and then got primed. See, and there's still a problem with them. I have to decide just how compulsive I want to get about fixing it. I need to make this piece of cardboard much smaller. Hold on. I'm using an X-Acto knife to just cut this off. It's, you know, it's doing its job, but it's so big, it's in the way, really. It's good I didn't cut my finger. That's a good thing. It's not an X-Acto knife, it's a Stanley knife. I know that's the brand name. They're called box cutters, I think. But I got the real thing. It's a real Stanley. No discount. Second-rate Stanleys. It fits better in the box. So this is the to be painted stuff. And I'll need the pearlescent and the primer. I brought it down. Should have just left it up there, but I didn't. So now I get to carry it around. Okay, well, the situation with these is that when I painted them white to begin with, the white paint, you can just see it here. You can see how it just ran and puddled. Okay, now it's primered over. And the primer isn't too bad, but on some of these, like here, you know, you can see where the paint puddled. And so there's a differentiation of color. And this one is particularly bad. And I could just keep putting primer on it, I guess, but I don't want to do that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the gray. I'm going to paint these inner panels gray. I'm going to do that by hand. And I know that the edges aren't going to come out perfectly, but I have a plan. When I used to build models, as a kid, and things didn't turn out well, like I didn't get the edges right or the paint, you know, that kind of thing, is that I'm going to just scrape it off. And the result might be the bare plastic color, but that would be okay. It'll just be tedious. The scraping off part will be tedious, but it might just be how it has to go. But I do want them to be painted gray, and the only way to do that, for me at least, I mean, I probably could mask this somehow a master masker could do that, but I can't. So I'm going to try to paint these by hand, and we'll see how it goes, and then what I may end up having to do is paint the outside by hand as well. These are going to it's just not going to work really well. Okay, the edges aren't going to be even, so I'll be just scraping the paint off to make the edge smooth with a sharp knife, an X-Acto knife, really sharp blade kind of thing. And I just know that is how it's going to be, so I might as well just be prepared for it. I'm going to use this for the edging. See if I got a little bit bigger, nice brush. I have to kind of fill in after I do the edges. I'll try this. Why not? Oh, I'm going to give this a go. See what happens, right? I mean, maybe it'll go well. Maybe it won't. If it doesn't go well, then I'll just keep at it. Scraping and moving paint around and stuff until it looks okay. And once that's done, and it will be eventually, it'll be done. I'm going to mask this, and then this part gets painted the dark metallic color that I used for the edge of this and for the control panel on the command station navigation panel. Yeah, and that should cover okay. We'll see how it goes. And then the bottoms will get painted that kind of grayish white that I'm going to use for other things too. So do some painting, and it'll either go okay or it won't. I really am, I'm doing this model instead of, it was supposed to be a relaxing thing, because to be honest, I'm not really invested in this model like I was with the other ones that I've done. The submarine was a real big nostalgia thing for me, because I built one when I was a kid. And the Lotus Ford was a nostalgia thing, because I built one when I was a kid. And the Apollo was a thing because it's just a really cool model, and the Savoia S-21 was a big thing because that's one of my favorite Miyazaki films, Porco Rosso. This, although it's Star Trek, and so, it's Star Trek, is not really a good model. It's not a rare model. It's not a particularly well done model. I was just doing this as kind of like, let's do something that's maybe a little less intense. So if it goes really badly, if at some point this is just not working, if it goes really, really badly, I'm okay with abandoning it, and that might happen. We'll see. We'll just see. I almost stuck my finger right in the jar. There, see, I got paint on the screen already. This is really not, this paint isn't working well. It's just not leveling. I'm pretty unhappy with how this is brushing on. Wow. Okay. No, I mean, seriously, it's not. Look at that. I don't that. I've never had that kind of thing happen before. So this is just not working. I'm going to try to take it off as much as I can. Wow. Yeah, that's bad. Hadn't used this in quite a while. So it might just be that it needs to be thinned. I'm not sure. Okay, well, that was a truly unpleasant surprise. Kind of an old bottle. I have another gray paint that I could use instead. I can try that, but this has to come off first, so I may end up having to I don't know what I'm going to have to do with this. I'm going to try to keep it. I mean, it may be just as well because I was making a mess of it, but okay, well, when I said salvage operation with a question mark, I didn't think this would be it. Okay, well, this paint is unusable as it is, so that I know. It's just either, and I don't have another one, I don't think. I had a roll of paper towels here. Everything's moved around. Somebody was down here in the workbench area moving things and cleaning up. So here. Gray, I have this stuff, the Vallejo gray. I don't know how that's going to work either. Let's find out. It's a little bit lighter gray. Just need to be a lot more careful. This. Well, it can't get any worse, I don't think. I was painting over primer, and the paint just wasn't adhering. You know, I guess I've had that happen before. It's just an odd thing. The paint would do that. I'll give this a go. If this fails too, then I'm going to have to, I don't know what I'll do. We'll find out. Well, I'm not getting a very good line here. I'm going to have to use the, as I said, the razor blade trick of, it's not a trick, it's just a way of cleaning up. The razor blade cleanup approach to make this line look the way I want it to. at least this paint is behaving in that it is actually adhering to the surface, and it's leveling pretty well. So yeah, memorable Star Trek episodes. Of course, they're all memorable in the original series because, that's what it was, is the original series. The genesis of Star Trek. Why are they different colors? I don't know. Oh, it changes color pretty dramatically as it dries. There. That was a classic oops. But like I said, I'm going to be kind of scraping down the frame. Yeah, so I wanted to kind of minimize how much cleanup I would have to do later. Usually it's not quite as bad as it originally looks. I found that to be the case, is that when I start cleaning it up, it looks worse than it is, and I'm just going to go around the edges and clean that up. But it's, it's not great, but it's not horrible. This is definitely one of those models that should not be seen any closer than 18 inches under dim light. I don't know what I did there. I got it all over the edge. I mean, completely on the edge of on the frame. Just like I missed. I missed what I was aiming at. It was like worse than not even trying. Well, Now this is all going to take a lot of cleaning up. Okay. And it's going to look pretty crappy. I have to say that the paint is not... The paint is not giving a smooth surface. Maybe it'll look better when it dries, but right now, I don't know. This model might be headed, this might be going into the B- territory. Okay, in terms of grading. I might even score a C on this one. So let's see how this goes, how it cleans up. If I can't clean it up and it looks really bad, you know, if worse comes to worse, then it might be. I mean, it might worse. It might come to worse. If worse comes to worse, I'll just trash it, and then move on to something else and hope that I do better. Having trouble seeing what I'm doing here. Yeah, this is going poorly enough that it's almost like why am I even bothering to try to get a nice smooth line, because it's just not happening. I'm going to have to depend on my skill with a X-Acto blade cleaning this up. So this is like a rough approximation of what it should look like. Wow. Yeah, I just have to say it's really not good. It's really not a good job of painting. In fact, it's a pretty terrible job of painting. And I'm not really sure exactly why it's going so poorly. I think part of it is just because of the way the primer, you know, the base, the unintentional base coat of white, and then it's just hard to see the edges. So Tranya, the half black, half white thing, that was not very subtle. The other one was, oh yeah, tribbles. So those are all kind of things that I remember because I guess they were memorable, right? But the Kums and the Yangs, that one was how in the world, what? Okay, I do not understand how that happened. I don't know if I can fix that or not. I talk about, the process of getting paint on places where it's just impossible to get it. And that is just how did it get there? I don't even have it on my fingers. That was weird. I mean, granted, the rest of this isn't going all that well, but that was bizarrely messy. I must have bumped it with the brush. That's the only thing I can think of. Is it really drying so badly? I'm glad I'm not doing anything on an expensive model or something that I'm really invested in, because just about every aspect of this is going poorly. So I went from a paint that didn't even adhere to the surface to one that doesn't seem to have consistent color. I don't understand. See, and then I just get a beautiful smooth line. And then I don't. Well, I'm going to finish painting these, and then on Wednesday I'll see what they look like and whether it's salvageable or not. Let the paint dry, clean up the edges as much as I can. And if it really doesn't work, seriously, this if I have to abandon this model, I'll just abandon it. What time is it here? It's going on noon. Okay, I have a lot of time left before 1 o'clock. So yeah, the Kums and the Yangs, that was very subtle. It's like we didn't know what was going on. But then, then we get the parallel universe thing where they pull out the stars and stripes. It was like, well, really? You didn't think that we got it? Yes, they were the communists and the Yankees. And then you had to say the E Pueblista or E Plebnista. But that was an unforgettable episode because it was so not subtle. No. See, like that side and that side, just about perfect. Okay, but enough of it isn't just about perfect. In fact, it's just about terrible. That is going to take a lot of cleaning up. Which I will do, or attempt to do, on Wednesday. See, that was good, and then I bumped the brush against it. Messed it up. So when I was when I was younger, when I was much younger, and I made my first efforts at painting, and I just kept making a mess like this, I would just get my single-edged razor blade out and clean up the edges. And that's what I'm going to do with this, too. Is just scrape it off, to make them look the way they should. But see, I don't understand stuff like this. There's such a difference in color, and it looks like there's spots opening up that aren't. Wow, this one's particularly awful. Well, I'll let it dry. It might just be, the different color variation. I've had this happen before where when it dries, it ends up looking better. I may end up having to put a second coat on. I'm not sure. If I do, then I'll make a mess again. So there isn't any reason for it to be so varied in color like that. I don't understand the color variation, except unless it's thick and thin or something. But I'll find out on Wednesday when I look at it again and then try to clean it up. This is one of those models that, I don't know, maybe it's salvageable, maybe not. I don't know. I mean, how can I get such a nice line here, right? And then make such a mess there? I'm not even sure how that... I'm not even sure how it's possible to do that. Well, these are drying. Can't really do much until they're dry. I'm going to set this stuff aside as much as I can. Mix up some epoxy and repair the bring this down here. The thing that's broken. I'm gonna mix up some epoxy and re-glue the thing that's broken. And on Wednesday I'll see if I can salvage these display things, these display panels. This is like the third time some of these are getting cemented. So epoxy is supposed to grip, right? And it's really supposed to hold well. So why isn't it? Are the surfaces too smooth? Should I have coarse sanded them? Maybe that's the case. Maybe what I should have done was use the model cement. But I didn't. So I'm kind of stuck with what I've got. As a reminder, okay, I'm doing something else I haven't messed up, which is staining a whole lot of wood. And as I'm doing that, I'll be starting late again. On Wednesday, I'll be 11 to 1 instead of 10 to 1. We'll be doing that again. I'll try this again, and if it keeps breaking, keep trying something else until it stops breaking. I'm going to do this. I've got some very coarse sandpaper here. I have a couple of minutes to do this before the epoxy gets... So yeah, Coombs and Yang's E Plebnista. I think it was supposed to be I Pledge Allegiance. Anyway, Kirk goes on to repeat the whole thing. Oh, it was We the People. We the people of the United States. It wasn't of America. I mean, it couldn't be that blunt, I guess. But E Plebnista was we the people of the United States. But he showed his, he let them know that he knew more than they knew about their own place, so that was the important thing. Well, the parts are in contact with each other. Yeah, it looks like they need to be held because they don't. So I need to do one of these holding things in place for a couple of minutes again. So I think they stopped killing each other. I think that that was the result of it. But it was definitely not one of their most, well, none of them were very subtle. But Shatner got to make a speech as Kirk. He did that a lot. Oh, what else? Oh, yeah, of course. Then there was the Gorn episode. Everybody, that was an amazing thing. Even, the Gorn costume, let's just say left a lot to be desired in terms of the quality of the costume, right? It was pretty clear that it was just some guy running around with a big lizard head on. But it was, it was pretty cool because we got to meet the Gorn. And the Gorn were, what the hell? Sorry. I need to do this, I think. Just a little. Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with that paint. Okay, I need to hold these for a while yet until this stuff sets up enough to let it loose. So the Gorn episode, I think that was actually one of my favorites. That we got to meet the Gorn. just a bloodthirsty race. The special effects, the strange new worlds, the Gorn come back and in a major way, and they're much more, frightening than the Gorn was in that one episode. But it was an example of how Star Trek could just take this one thing, this one episode that in effect was just kind of a weird thing that, one of these know-it-all highly evolved bodies just did a test. There was a lot of that, I think. That was kind of a recurring theme where they'd run into something that would test them. So they pitted humanity against the Gorn because they knew that the Gorn was, but they didn't know about humanity, I guess. And so, yeah, they had to battle each other. And then everybody on the Enterprise got to watch it, but couldn't intervene. So they could say, "Oh, Kirk, do this, do this, do this. Oh, no, don't do that. Oh, yeah, you did it. Yay." Okay. I mean, that kind of thing was going on as Kirk managed to find the ingredients for gunpowder and loaded them into a tube of bamboo, and then found a pile of diamonds, of all things. I mean, you couldn't just use like granite or any kind of rocks. They had to be diamonds. But found a pile of diamonds as projectiles. That was kind of gratuitous, I guess, I'll use that word. But there it was, and managed to shoot the Gorn with his bamboo gun. I don't remember if a Mythbusters did anything with that or not. I think they did, actually, and found out that the bamboo would just blow up. But this wasn't like Earth bamboo, right? It was some other place, some other planet. Maybe the bamboo there had more strength, like steel. It was strong as steel, maybe. But Kirk managed to defeat the Gorn, and then whoever it was, whatever race it was that set up the test, pitting Gorn and humanity together, humanity passed the test. Yay, good going, Kirk. Good job. And then they didn't destroy humanity. I don't know. The Gorn lost. I think they were just kicked out. That's what it was. It was, are we going to be able to establish contact or not? Okay. Will we be buddies, interstellar buddies or not? And the Gorn didn't pass the test, so they were not buddied up with whoever these people were. But humanity was. I don't know if it ever, I mean, the Gorn has come back because everybody loved the Gorn. They're so evil. But I don't know if that race ever came back. So far, those are the ones that I remember the most. The, Tribbles, the episode where the Klingons showed up. Okay. And that featured much later as how do you explain this kind of situation? There was no explanation for it. The Kums and the Yangs, the half white, half black, half white people. The Gorn, and first the Tranya. That's the most important one. has time expired yet on this? If I let it loose, will it pull apart again, or will it hold? I don't know. I'll give it a couple more minutes. Well, things went badly enough today that, maybe I'll just pull some more parts out of the box and start prepping them. On Wednesday, I'm going to go back to these display panels and one more attempt to salvage them. It looks like I might need to put another coat of paint on them. That'll take a while. If I do that, then on Friday I'll scrape off the paint that's gotten all over the outside of the frames, because I did a terrible job of painting today. I tried to be careful, but it just was a failure. So I'm going to do that and see how this all turns out. Yeah, but I think, rather than trying to go back and forth with white paint and gray paint, I'm going to try to scrape the gray paint off and leave the frames the color of the plastic underneath, to the extent that I can pull that off. Okay, well, it didn't fall apart as soon as I let it go, so that's good. What have I got left here? I've got all the panels. I got the railings and the chairs. Long railing, and then the supports. I guess there's a bunch of these. It says railing support 16. That doesn't make sense. Long railing, 3 long railings, 4 supports for each of 3 long railings, and there's 16 supports, which means that there should be 4 railings. Maybe there's a smaller one. Let's find out. I don't have any work surface to work with, so there. Let's see what's left in here. I know there's a bunch of chairs. There's the trash, the sprue. That's just totally in the way. Wow, look at all this. Why haven't I thrown that away? Well, I know why, because it actually becomes useful. Yeah, there's chairs. There's circles. I wonder what those are. So there are 4 railings. There's 3 big ones and a short one. I don't know what those are. What are the numbers? Can't even read the number. Put on my head magnifiers just so I can see what these mysterious little round things are. 38. There isn't any 38. I don't see. Oh, okay. There's long railings and railing. There isn't any 38. What are those? What? Oh. Ah, okay. Duh. They're little stands that go underneath Sulu and Spock. There they are. Yeah, there they are. 38 bases. Because otherwise they won't stand up, so they get to stand on little circles. Okay. Why not? I'm showing a level of incompetence with this model that is truly astounding. After the success I had with the Savoia, and so far with the Lotus Ford, that this is going so poorly is kind of astonishing and a little bit disturbing, really. Well, if I can get these prepped, I'm going to throw them in with the let's go ahead and prime them box. What have they done with the... I'm going to violate my own preference here and try to get this off. Jeez. They're like connected in 3 different ways, 3 different places. What color are the bases supposed to be anyway? Oh, they're like that dark metallic color. Okay. I can use the dark primer on this. The dark metallic looks good against the dark primer. I end up spending the better part of half an hour just getting these off the sprue. So it's turning out that it may be good that I'm running shorter sessions this week, because it's just, there isn't that much to do because everything's screwed up. The gray on the panels, I just made a mess of it. I'll be spending a lot of Wednesday. Well, it depends if I put a second coat on. If I put a second coat on, I won't be cleaning it up until Friday. In the meantime, just to make sure I'm using my time for something instead of just waiting around, I'm going to end up using this. These are going to be attached so I can prime them. Well, it hasn't fallen apart yet. We'll see if it falls apart when I move it Wednesday. So what will be happening is I'm going to be priming some pieces with white primer. And I'm going to be priming these with the gray primer because they're going to be painted the dark metallic, the same color, I think. Well, let me decide. The chairs, I think I'm going to use the lighter color. I used the slightly lighter color for the stairs, the braces for the stairs. I'm going to use that on here. It's still a dark metallic. And then for the railings, as long as I have enough of that, I'm going to use that too when I get around to doing the railings. But these definitely, I'm going to use the lighter gunmetal. As usual, there's just all this little excess all around the edges. So I'm taking all going through the pains, so to speak, of cleaning these up, and then just making a total mess of it when I paint it. I really expected that I really thought I would do a better job with painting than I did. That was kind of extraordinarily terrible. I don't really have a good explanation for why it went so badly. Fortunately, it's possible to clean it up, so all is not lost. But it's kind of just surprisingly poorly done. Yeah, so all around the edges here, when it came out of the mold, there's just little bits of, there's just this little film of plastic all around it. And because of, there's just a lot of surface area here. Now, if I'm going to be painting if I'm going to be painting the stands for the railing the same color, I'm just going to wait to prime it all at one time. So I'm not going to bother priming these between now and Wednesday. There's no point in that. Really, there really isn't. It isn't going to save any time, and this way I can do all of them at once. The railing is going to be painted red. I've already done that. Painted it red. The base of the navigation panel. I painted that over the dark primer, which didn't work very well. So I'm not going to do that again. Do I not remember any other Star Trek episodes? Come on. I watched them when I was young. How come I don't remember them all? I just remember little bits of some of them, So I wonder if this is true. Just like in Casablanca, Sam, Humphrey Bogart's character never said, "Play it again, Sam." He said, "Play it, Sam. If she can take it, so can I." But never said, "Play it again, Sam." Even though they then made a movie called Play It Again, Sam, based on the thing that was never said in the movie. And I guess, that's a common thing, that people remember things that didn't happen. Now, I do know that with Lauren Bacall, I think it was in To Have and Have Not, he did say, "Here's looking at you, kid." That's a real thing that happened in the movie. And where is this going? It is actually going somewhere. Just bear with me. Did Scotty really say, "The engines cannot take it any longer, Captain"? Or is that just something like "Play it again, Sam"? That's become legend, but never really happened. I don't know the answer to that. I'm sure people out there who are, real Star Trek aficionados know that. But having lived through the real thing, everybody remembers, I think, that's an exaggeration. It is remembered that, we joke about it. "The engines cannot take it any longer, Captain." Or something to that effect. But aren't really sure now whether that was ever a thing. My monologue is really suffering today. I have to say that things, ever since the decals became a disaster on the Lotus Ford, nothing's really been going terribly well down here on this stream. I've been giving lots and lots of examples of how not to. I thought this model would be kind of relaxing and fun to build because I wasn't like really invested in it that much. But I'm struggling with it. I'm struggling with the just the quality. I mean, just things aren't working. Like the tape failing on the captain's chair. It was going okay. I mean, this bit was hard to cement together and it keeps breaking because the parts don't fit all that well. Okay. It's not laying flat, for example. It was okay. And then the control panel, actually, that went pretty well. I got the detail painted on that. It looks pretty good. And then the captain, well, I guess it's just been since the captain's chair. I mean, not that this went poorly, this circle. It was just kind of it's just maybe not using the right adhesive or prepping the parts right. That continues to come undone. Yeah, I guess it's the control panel things. I mean, the captain's chair was a setback, but not awful in that it's, recoverable. I just have to redo it maybe 2 more times. But these control panels, I tried a shortcut. The shortcut didn't work at all. The primer is okay. Yeah. It was just my painting. It just was so bad. Just really, really messy. So I have to put a second coat on. I'm just looking at it and it isn't even. There's color variations. And just look at this. I don't understand that. The paint looked uniform, but there's huge color variations in it. And it's dry now. So that's just not, I guess it's just not even. So I have to put a second, who knows, maybe even a third coat on that. In the process, it'll be even messier on the edges. Maybe what I'll do is, since the frame is such a mess anyway, I might just use a larger brush and go for uniform coverage rather than, I'm just going to try that. I mean, if worst comes to worst, I'll just start over with yet another layer of primer. So what I'm saying to myself is, since I'm having such a hard time getting any kind of uniformity of the paint, is I'm just going to use a bigger brush and go and forget about, trying to salvage this frame. That's just going to have to be scraped off. Is going to go for uniformity of color. And then I'll just deal with the frame later. Because the frame's a mess anyway. So that's what's going to happen with that, is that I'm going to that is what's going to happen with it, is that I'm going to just go for uniformity of color. If I can't get that, then that whole then the whole process has to be redone. I have to rethink about how it's going to be colored. So on Wednesday, I'll be unmasking the chair, and either that'll go okay or it won't. I'll be repainting these, trying to get a uniform gray color on it, because it isn't. I've never seen it streaky like that. I guess I'm going to spend more time mixing it. It looked fine in the little well, but it definitely doesn't look good there. I'm going to be taking this circle and putting it back out of the way somewhere. Maybe I'll just stick it on a shelf over there somewhere so it's just out of the way. Here. These bits are going to be, the chairs and the railings are going to be primed with white. But these bits are going to be primed with, yuck. I'm just going to take all this stuff off. Oh, these are really a mess. Okay, those are going to take a while to fix. They've got molding marks on them. I mean, look, it's even dark circles. So these are going to have to be a lot of sanding done on that. I'm just going to take these parts off with the time that I've got left. I mean, not in my life. I mean, it's not like my life only has a 15 or 20 minutes left. I don't think anyway. I don't think it's that situation. But just to do something. Get these off and start complaining about how much sanding is going to have to be done. Okay. So these chairs are supposed to be fancy. See how they're blue with a black back? It's not going to happen. I can just tell you that just isn't going to happen. What I am going to do is I'm going to paint it all blue. I'm not going to have the back like that. I mean, look at that. That's going to be a level of skill. If there was a demarcation, if there was like a demarcation on the chair, kind of like it shows here where there's a ridge, okay, then I would do that. But each one would have to be hand painted, and in a way that there's like 6 of them. They'd all have to be the same. So that's not possible. What is possible is that I can do this. I can paint the seats maybe I'll use the dark gray primer on these so that the seat cushions would be that dark gray, just like the captain's chair. And then I can tape it carefully all around here like that, and then spray the back of the chair would be blue. That's what I'm going to do, is that these guys are going to be primed with the dark gray primer. and the dark gray primer will remain the seat cushion cover. So that'll get primed along with these bits. Yeah, just going to cut these off. And on Wednesday, depending on how everything else goes, I'll start working on sanding them down. Because see these marks on them? Those are those circles, and the circles for some reason got brown on them. Here. What I need is one of these little cups here. So instead of throwing these parts back in the box, throw them in here. Eventually, I'm going to get down to the minifigs. We'll see how that goes when time comes. I'm going to just stick these in here too, because I'm not getting around to painting them until Thursday probably. Here. Let's see what's happening. So this was, just a short day. Wednesday and Friday will also be starting at 11 and going until today I'm just going until 1 because I could go longer, but I've got other things I must do. So on Wednesday, I'll be putting another coat of gray paint on this, trying to get a uniform color here, and then eventually I'll be trying to fix the frames. I'll be doing that by scraping the paint off. And I think that'll be just fine. And eventually the display panels, the gray part and the little white frame around it will look adequate. And when they look adequate, I will tape over them. Okay, this will get masked once this looks adequate. That'll get masked, and then this gets painted that dark metallic color. That's the same color as the base here, and that'll be the color of the display panel. But this is going to take a while to get to where it looks okay. Yeah, and I would be really careful not. I don't want to scrape the white around the edges. So scrape around the top and then the gray part. And if I scrape too much in the gray, then I'll come back with the gray paint, and that might go back and forth a little bit. But that's just how that will be. I've got a lot of this. Oh, well, here, let me get the railings off while I'm at it. Since I'm sawing things off. Where did I put the rest of this? It's just trash. I had like a whole pile of this, and I just put it somewhere, and I don't know where. Oh, there. Huh. Yeah. What I need is I need a miscellaneous box of plastic sprue. I have used some of this in the past, like a panel like that I've used on the Lotus Ford for a reason. But as it is, it's now just in the way. So I'm going to put it in this box, along with the stuff from the other models when I clean those up. But I've got like 10 minutes left, and rather than just going, oh no, what can I mess up now, I'm going to cut these guys off. They're not going to be painted the same, they're not going to be primed the same color, but since I'm sawing things, I'll just go ahead and saw this. I'm going to probably, these are going to be red. And what I found when I painted the navigation panel red, it took many coats of red to get it to look right. But I don't know, I might do the same thing with this. I might just go ahead and prime it the dark gray. Oh, that was fun. I might just go ahead and prime it the dark gray and just put like 3 coats of red on it to make it look like the navigation panel. I'll show you that at the end here. So, as I'm finishing up, I just want to remind you that Dice and Dungeons is all about its Dungeons and Dragons show, which streams with a live chat on Sundays at 2. And you can catch all the old episodes on YouTube or listen to them as a podcast. And as I cut the bases off, get everything off but the minifigs. There. And the minifigs will just have to wait for another day. I can put this back on and just leave it on because nothing's going to happen until the rest of this is done. So you can see the railing is red, and what I'm talking about in terms of colors is the one part that actually went okay is the navigation panel here. You can see that really came out pretty nicely, is that the red, it took 3 coats of red on the dark so this is why I'm unhappy about the captain's chair, and even more unhappy about the other control panels, is because this came out okay. You know, it's looking okay. Okay, yeah, I'm going to prime them all in the dark gray primer, and then I'm going to just spray paint them red like that. I've got plenty of red paint left over. I bought a full can of it for the Savoia that I ended up not needing. So yeah, I'm just going to do that. So all those parts that I took off just now, once they're prepped, they will be primed with the dark gray primer. And most of them will be painted light gunmetal, and some of them will be painted red. And then the chairs, these chairs, I'm not sure what color I'm going to prime them. Oh yeah, I said I was going to prime them the dark gray as well. And then I would leave the seat cushion the dark gray, just like for the captain's chair, if that ends up working. And then just put multiple coats of blue paint on the backs. So this is coming along with fits and starts, one step forward, two steps forward, one step back, sometimes more than one step back. And on Wednesday, I need these. On Wednesday, I'll be working on the captain's chair. Hopefully that will come along and I'll be able to finish that, and I'll finish this whole section here. I'll do that. I'll get that done. And I will be putting another coat of this gray paint on, hopefully making it look more uniform than this. And I'll be spending some time, a fair amount of time, mixing the paint, I guess. And then the process will be, I'll just give you an example here to clean up the frames. I'll be just scraping it off like that. And why isn't it coming off? It should go down to the bare plastic. The bare plastic is not gray. Oh, it is, kind of, there. Is it really that color? Okay, that's kind of disturbing. That's going to be a problem. No, look. It's supposed to be this color. That would be a good color for the frames. Why is it not? Well, that's just not good. And why did that scrape? I was trying to do something and it's just not working here. It looks so dark. Well, that isn't working. That just was a mess. That turned out to be bad. The color is just totally different than I thought it would be. Okay, well, what I'm going to do with these, since this isn't working at all, okay, okay, I'm going to reprime all of these. I'm just going to do that. I'm going to spray white primer on it, and hopefully salvage this. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what else to do. I'm going to reprime it, and then depending on how it covered the gray, I may end up not trying to paint these panels gray. I might just leave them a white color. I need a better white spray paint. Yeah, this isn't going well at all. I'm not sure what to say. I'm going to wrap up because this is not going well at all. I thought I could do this, but I can't. So I'm going to reprime these and see what my options are after I see what the primer looks like. I might need to find some sort of opaque white paint. Well, on that note, what can I say? I've got a lot more work to do to rehabilitate this thing. So I'll see you on Wednesday at more or less 11 o'clock and see what happens after I repaint these. See you then.